Coming from Delhi and much like you guys, I never dreamt that I would be chairman of a Fortune 500 company. I am an example that you guys can achieve and become anything that you want to be. I think believe in that. Now you've hired these fantastic group of leaders. You have to stitch them together as a highly effective executive team. How will you do that?
I'll first talk to my wife and say, you have to ditch me for a month. And I'll go and buy a property nearby the office and we all will live together for a month.
That's the most creative idea I've ever heard. I came to Masters Union in August this year for the first time. I didn't know about the college, And then I came here and I was very impressed with the infrastructure. It looks just like a university back in the US. And I'm so glad. You should be very proud that you're here. And wish you the very best for a glorious future. Well, as my introduction said, I'll just give you a little bit more color. So I grew up in Delhi. I went to DPS. Any dip sites here? A few? Yeah, I was in R.K. Puram. Then I went to St. Stephen's College. Then anybody from Stephens or Delhi University? Quite a few, fantastic. And then I did my MBA from FMS Delhi. That time we didn't have Masters Union. I dreamt of, I have to be honest, to go to Harvard. But I couldn't afford to go there. And that's why I did my advanced leadership there. I'm in fact going back to Harvard next year to study for a year. So always been very drawn to learning and to going to outstanding institutions. And then I joined Tata Administrative Service. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. In those days, it was like the job, So I had an option to join Unilever or join TAS. I joined Tata Administrative Service. And through them, I started working in Taj hotels. I just love the glamour of hotels. These beautiful hotel lobbies and great-looking guests and such deep sort of people orientation. I just love that business. Did that for about 7-8 years, and then I joined Yum Brands. Do you know Yum? Pizza Hut, KFC, Taco Bell. Worked with them for 25 years. Long time. So I worked and ran their businesses in Holland. Then I lived and worked in Germany. So I speak Dutch, speak German. Then I went back to the UK, ran their business there. Then I came to India in 2007. At that time, we had no KFCs, no Pizza Huts, no Taco Bells. How many of you like those brands? Okay, so maybe about 30%. So I was the guy, along with the team, that started those brands. So you can imagine just coming in, none of these brands existed. The economy was just opening up. And what an incredible opportunity to launch these global brands. So did that for 10 years. And then I became the global president for KFC. I was living in Dallas. I was running 5,000 stores in about 50 countries. And then I left Yum after 25 years, which is quite a tough decision. It happened because I lost my daughter. I don't know if you're familiar with, I'm father of Aisha. I love introducing myself like that because Aisha is more famous than I am. How many of you have heard of Aisha? Oh wow, that's incredible. So this is what I mean. People know her and get inspired by her. So she died in 2015 and I completely lost myself and it was very hard for me to keep going, and I decided to reset my life. And part of the reset was I joined a investment fund called JAB. I don't know if you've heard of JAB. It's a $140 billion fund. I joined them as an operating partner. And through that, moved back to London, and I was running Krispy Kreme donuts. Do you guys like Krispy Kreme donuts? How many of you like Krispy Kreme? You're just being nice to me. Actually, if you're into donuts, probably the best donuts in the world. So I went there. I was a global president and, of the company. Did that for 2 years. And then for the last 5 years, and this is where today's class comes in, I was the CEO for Panera Brands. I don't know if you've seen maybe if you visited the US, you may have seen it. How many of you are familiar with the brand? So some of you. Panera Brand is a brand which is like fast casual. So it's above fast food and below casual dining. And it's got the quality of casual dining at the price of fast food. So it's kind of in the middle. And Panera, what's very unique about Panera is that it offers soups, salads, and sandwiches that are good for you because all the ingredients are all clean. There are no preservatives, no artificial sweeteners. All the animal proteins are responsibly raised. So it's a really great brand with great food that's good for you. That's what's distinctive about that brand. So I joined them as a CEO in 2019. I was absolutely elated. And what we're going to do is, that's where we're going to start today. And the company, of course, is going public, so I can't talk about Panera Brands. But I'm going to use that same narrative through the name of a new company called Paradise Salads and Bowls. Right? So it's inspired by the same story, but we just have fun with it. So the situation is, and before I come to the case, after that, I was also leading 2 other brands. Einstein Bagels. I don't know if you know Einstein Bagels. No? It's a bagel company, the largest in the US. And then Caribou Coffee. Much better than what I'm holding in my hand, Starbucks. I asked for a grande, and this is what I got. Well, anyway. So I became the sort of the group CEO of Panera Brands, which had Panera Bread, Caribou, and Einstein. So I was running 4,000 stores in 11 countries with 130,000 employees. Fantastic opportunity, probably sort of the purple patch in my life. Have never enjoyed myself as much I have in the last 5 years, and now I've become chairman of the company, and we're taking the brands public, so very, very exciting phase for me. Coming from Delhi, and much like you guys, I never dreamt that I would be chairman of a Fortune 500 company. Never in my wildest dreams. I'm an example that you guys can achieve and become anything that you want to be. Don't be afraid to dream, right? It can happen. Like I'm a living example, So I think believe in that. And don't shortchange your own dreams about the future. Some background on Paradise Salads and Bowls. Founded by a guy called Robert Shaw in 1990. 1,000-store concept. You may want to make notes here because every single clue is important. Robert Shaw, 1,000 stores, 30,000 employees. The company has 50% company ownership and 50% franchise, right? So franchise, company ownership. Very important to understand that. Of the brands that we have in India, Yum Brands, McDonald's, and Burger King, do you think they're company owned or franchise? All of them are franchise. All of them actually, right? There's no company owned operation here at that scale. They might be small mom and pop concepts, but there's a big difference between company and franchise led. And so Robert Shaw's brand, 50% he owned himself and 50% were franchised. And it was basically plant-based salad and bowls. Great tasting food that's good for you. That was the concept. There's a new CEO who's come in, which is you, not me. And then this is your executive team. Look at them. Strong credentials. You have a full house of an executive team. You have a CFO, a Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Operations, David Roger, Chief People Officer, Kristen Paul, Supply Chain Officer, George West, and Information Technology, Jack McCullen. So you not only promoted to becoming CEOs, you've also got a green card and you're all living in the US. Incredible. For the next 2 hours at least. Okay, so that's the background. With me so far? All right, so now is when it begins. There are going to be 6 pastures I'm going to walk you through. Each pasture has a certain timeline. And so you can see the timeline at the bottom. Timeline is May 2019, and then it moves to 2019 to 20 to 21, and then forever, and incorporates 22, etc. All right, now the background is you're living in London, and your spouse or your partner, depending on your preferences, is not excited about leaving London. So you're living in London, you're running another company, and you've promised your partner, as I did, We are never going to move from here. Darling, this is where we will live for the rest of our lives. And suddenly you have this opportunity to go and run Paradise, which is like been a dream of yours in the food retail business, and you want to convince your partner that you need to move, and you do that because your child lives in the US, and you promise your partner that this is only for 4 years, 5 years. After that, we will come back to London. Okay, so that's the mindset. Your partner is coming with you reluctantly, and you're relocating to go to the US, and you move to Boston. Anybody been to Boston? You have? Do you like Boston? No!
Because I lived in New York, so.
Oh, you prefer New York. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? No. All right. Boston's pretty cold. But it's a beautiful city. But you've never lived there.
Yeah.
So you're going to go there, and you're going to live in a new place. You've never worked in the US. You're going to work in a new culture. You've never been part of Paradise Salads and Bowls. You're going to go there as an outsider, as an Indian who's going into this company that is run by an American charismatic founder, so successful, and you're feeling some sort of anxiety about, okay, I'm excited, but how will I really be successful? That's what you're thinking. Will people accept me? How will I establish myself as a leader? And will my spouse, will my partner be happy in a city where we don't know anybody? No friends, there's no family. We're just coming in there, but I'm so excited because I think the job is going to be awesome. That's your mindset. Okay, so now this is the background. 1,000 cafes, $2 billion of sales, so pretty successful. Employs 30,000 people, founded 30 years ago. It has a consistent track record of really good performance on sales and EBITDA. Do you understand EBITDA? Yes. Okay, so sales and profit, consistent performance, 30 years, growing year on year, fantastic performance, and a leader in plant-based, good-for-you products, and also very digitally savvy and can make personalized bowls for you, the way you want it, where you want it, how you want it, when you want it. A very sort of a technically, digitally sophisticated company. And an investment fund acquires this company and takes it private. So that's what's happened. So that's the background that you know. You've arrived now in Boston. And this is what you see. So pay attention, Mr. and Mrs. CEOs. You're now living in Boston. Don't know anybody. Robert Shaw leaves the company. The founder has now left. And very often when the founder leaves, who is so successful, you suddenly have the company stalls because the founder is so in tune and knows exactly what needs to be done, but the company now stalls. And as the company stalls, there are headwinds on comp, sales, and margins. And there's a pressure on all the lead indicators of a business. They actually are lead indicators for the financial performance. When you see a softening in these, you know that trouble is ahead. So if your consumer metrics decline, you know your sales will decline. If your employee metrics decline, you know that your margins might get hit. So lead indicators are actually softening. So it's not looking good. This is what Paradise Salads and Bowls did. First was, like you said, engage with key stakeholders. And many of you have talked about establishing key themes. I think many of you talked about that. That is correct. Even as you're introducing yourself, you're always listening. Somebody talked about listening way up front. That's right, which is what's really working well and what's not working well, and start developing a hypothesis, right? So that's correct. But I want to emphasize that even as you do that, before you do that, you have to really introduce who you are to the enterprise. Then you do a SWOT to arrive at, okay, what, as I listen to people, you're familiar with SWOT, right? Strength, weaknesses, opportunity, threats, what's really working, not working, and then develop a hypothesis, and then you do some research, quick research, to test that hypothesis so you have a clear idea early on, the first 90 days, as to what needs to be done. I think many of you had captured the second component of it, which was to listen and identify a hypothesis, right? But I'm adding two additional things. One is you must first introduce yourself and who you are. And the second is it's not enough to have hypothesis. You must research to confirm the validity of your hypothesis. You cannot purely go by gut feel. You must research it. Okay? So let me just elaborate a little bit. So this is what I mean by an introduction. 4 things. To your point, when you say introduction, it's not only standing up and saying, let me reassure you. No. These are the things that you need to introduce to the enterprise. And I agree with the fact that you must actually go after the entire 30,000 people. And you must go after all your franchisees. You must talk to all your suppliers, all your stakeholders. You first get in front of them very quickly within the first 10 days, 20 days, and introduce who you are and what you stand for. So these are examples of what was done at Paradise. First was, I believe in one paradise, which means irrespective of who owns it, company or franchise, it is one company with one promise, one culture to all our consumers. It is one company, one culture, one value proposition. Together, we will be stronger than individually. So 1 + 1 is 3. I believe in the power of working collaboratively in a collaboration with my franchise partners. So you state that belief up front. Second is, I believe that the most important leader in a food retail business is the general manager in a cafe. It's not the executive team, it's definitely not me, the CEO. My job is to be a servant leader to help the people in the cafes to become exceptional leaders. So my job is to serve the cafe general manager, look after our customers. So cafe general manager is the most important leader in our business. You're stating that, right? You're also stating that I believe that we will create, and my intent is that we will leverage the great foundation of the past and build a more exciting future. Very important lesson is that when you come into change management, you never disrespect the past. You always respect the past to be able to get everybody on board and aligned to create a phenomenal future. So my intent, you declare, is that I'm going to leverage and respect the past and create a glorious future. And in the future, my intent will be to create a broader level of impact, which is a company that is successful not only to create enterprise value, but also to have impact on people, their dreams, on community, and in protecting the planet. I believe that I will have a broader impact on all of those dimensions: people, community, planet, and enterprise. That's what I believe in. Further, I believe that to do that, you need to have a clear strategy. Strategy is how you will win, and then execute that. If I had to force you to choose between strategy and execution, what would you say what is more important, execution or strategy? Yeah, the hint is written here because I have revealed what I believe. I believe, yes, both are important, but I really believe in a relative sense, execution is more important because companies that win out-execute the competitor. So think about it, okay? This is an important thing. You're the CEO, and you're all saying execution is more important. And what that means is that you want your organization to work much harder than the competitor and to out-execute the competition. And I would say the reason why it's hard is strategy is to do with intellect. We all understand strategy. There's no big deal. Execution is to do with the heart, which is, I want to win. And I want every day to wake up determined to be better than I was yesterday, and I'm going to work my very best every single day and be better than I was yesterday. And you want that fire in the belly of all 30,000 people who wake up in the morning and say, let's go. My CEO says, I want 100, I'm going to give him 10,000. Because I feel it. I want to do it, right? So execution is about that passion, that desire, that commitment to win, And your job as a CEO is to really light that fire in the hearts of all 30,000 people. So therefore you declare to your team, okay, do you all believe execution is better than strategy? Everybody say yes, because everybody agrees with it. But then after that, say, okay, how are you going to do it? Then people say, well, I'm not sure. So I'm going to give you a reveal, what I believe. What I believe is superior execution is a function of three things: the right people, doing the right things, the right way. As a job of your CEO is only to do that. Hire the right people, because you hire for attitude, train for skill. Make sure they are focused on the fewest things that matter most, to pick very few things, and do it the right way, which is, with the right culture that builds trust. Right people, right things, right way. So you declare that. Whatever they are, the important thing is that you need to surface them. And when you stand in front of your team for the first time, and your company for the first time, you share who you are and what your values are, and you say, please hold me accountable. This is who I want to be as a leader. And what I shared with them were the following: that I believe in being congruent. What I think, feel, say, and do will always be consistent. I believe in being courageous, in focusing on what I can control, not what's happening to me. I believe in being curious, that is, in listening more than what I have to say. And finally, I believe in being resilient, that every time I get knocked down, I'm going to get up and I'm going to lead. I'm going to get up, I'm going to lead, I'm going to get up, and I am going to lead. And this is what you can expect from me as your leader. Right? That's powerful. That's what I mean. But before you transact, before you meet anybody, before you do any kind of listening sessions, people have to understand who you are and what you stand for. Now, what are some of the things that you notice in the way in which I described this that might be key learnings?
You use the word I believe.
I believe. Okay. What else? Yes?
Value alignment is very important.
Your value alignment and clarity of value is very important, yeah?
The cafe general manager being the number one leader, because they are the one who is the top rank at that granular level.
Yeah. Here's one important takeaway. Speak in a language that anybody can understand. Right? I just shared with you some powerful things, but in a simple way that you can understand. Anybody can understand it. You can be a team member in a cafe, you can understand it. You can be a CFO, you can be a board member, you can understand it. Doesn't matter. You speak with simplicity and clarity of thought. So when you introduce yourself, you need to first have clarity in your own head. Who you are, what you stand for. So write these things down. Do you have clarity on who you are? What your business philosophy is? Right? How you think you will create a broader impact? Do you know that? Do you know who's the most important stakeholder? Do you know your values? And if not, it's good to actually clarify those things and have them ready. For every time that you show up, you have clarity around exactly what your brand is. Right? Very important. Good so far?
Yeah.
All right, so that's the first introduction, which is relationship before transaction, by introducing who you are. And then you do a listening tour, and this is what you've now understood. And again, make notes, because things will build on this. So the SWOT analysis says, well, the brand is great. Brand is really working. So, you've gone, Prishta, as you said, you've gone to the stores, and many of you said, you listened and you understood what is behind these lead indicators declining. You're saying, well, nothing wrong with the brand. Brand is fantastic. It's good for you. Tastes great and it's good for you. Quality of food is amazing. Your digital properties are fantastic. Nothing wrong there. Great. However, we need to simplify the mission and the vision of the company. It's a bit complicated. Strengthen the business model. The model margins are not that strong. Need to strengthen the capability. The executive team doesn't seem to believe in the new direction. They're very skeptical about each one of you as a CEO. And then accelerate growth to create enterprise value. These are some of the things that need to be worked on, which is operations, simplify, build capability, and accelerate growth. And then you go out and you research these hypotheses. This is through a listening tour, but then you actually test. How do you research hypotheses and confirm it? How do you do that?
There's a primary research, there's a secondary research.
Primary, secondary.
Experiment.
Yeah, so you basically involve your stakeholders, customers, employees, and actually research, so primary, secondary, etc., and you confirm. And now you have confirmed the following hypothesis, which is, these are the 4 important hypotheses that you have identified as priorities. You want to simplify operations. Operations are very complicated. You want to strengthen the model. You want to strengthen capability and culture, and you want to ignite growth. These are the 4 things that you want to now do. Okay? How are you feeling, Mr. and Mrs. CEO? Feeling good? Now you only spent 6 months. The honeymoon period is getting to an end. And the board is getting impatient because your results are not turning around. All this sounds great, you sound good, board meetings are good, but the numbers are not changing, so you're feeling a bit of pressure. Meanwhile, your spouse is not very happy because there's nobody, there are no friends, no family. So you come back home and you get a kick up your ass at how lonely it is and how cold it is. And you're trying to still, keep the balance and keep focused on work. And then what happens is in August 2019, in a few months, you have the COVID bomb that hits you. Oh, before COVID, I accelerated the timeline. COVID has not come. This is just the end of the honeymoon period. So now you've got your feet under the desk. You're feeling a bit more comfortable. Everybody knows you. You kind of introduce yourself. Town halls have gone well, and people are saying, well, for an Indian guy, this person is not so bad. So the people are saying, well, let's see, the proof is actually in the pudding, as they say, so we'll wait and see. But at least he says or she says the right things. Skeptical, right? That's to be expected, because anybody can say nice things. But then, what are you going to do? So with that, this is what you now see. On culture, you find that the entire culture is very founder dependent. Robert Shaw really ran the whole place individually, and the whole company is dependent on the founder. And then the company works in silos. Marketing doesn't talk to finance, doesn't talk to supply chain, doesn't talk to HR, doesn't talk to IT. They're all siloed. It's a very intellectually savvy, the company. There's a lot of deep analytics, but not enough insights. You know the difference? Analysis is like, you have analytics, but you really need insights. What's the so what? Don't just give me lots of reams of paper. I want to know so what. And not enough disagreements. Sometimes when founder run companies, everyone agrees with them. Yes, founder is always right. And sometimes in a culture, and Kanav and I were having an interesting conversation. In India, like for example, there's a lot of respect for seniority, which means older people, right? And aap to bade hai, right? So you'll always be right. So there's a lot of these barriers about disagreeing. And one of the biggest problems that you have in companies is if you do not have disagreements. If people don't feel encouraged to disagree, you're going to actually implode one day. It's not a good thing. So there's no disagreements. You're finding you're talking to people, because you're the CEO, everyone says, oh, you're so smart, you're right. I agree with you, but you don't want people to agree, you want people to disagree. And then capability, the executive team, you can see in their eyes, they're not on board. You talked about executive team, right? Talk to the executive team, none of them like you. They pretend as if it's all good, but they hate your guts. And they say, what the hell, how did I bring this outsider? I could have been the CEO. And there are leadership gaps. There's no HR leader, there's no brand leader, no supply chain, no digital, no food innovation, because the founder was running everything. So you don't have like high caliber leaders, and the executive team doesn't quite believe in you. No matter what you say, they just don't like you. And then there is structure, there's silos in brand leadership. So brand leadership has food innovation, doesn't talk to insights, doesn't talk to advertising, doesn't talk to media planning, etc. So there's a lot of silos there. Company and franchise are run like two separate companies. Company operations, franchise operations, and they don't talk to each other. And there are too many layers from the CEO down to the front line. There are like 15 different layers and very narrow spans, so it's very bureaucratic. IT is very unstable, keeps crashing, all your computers keep crashing, your iPad keeps crashing, customers can't place orders, they get frustrated, food innovation pipeline is not that strong, and quality assurance is very fragmented. Apart from that, everything is good. When you have lots of problems, like you have problems everywhere, quality assurance, which is like food safety and all that. People can get poisoned and, maybe health risks, so many problems. Remember, as a leader, you cannot firefight. You'll always have, in any situation, in any company, massive amounts of problems. As a leader, you basically take a deep breath, step back, take time to think, and first focus on the root cause solutions for all these symptoms. These are symptomatic. But the real issue in the company is being able to have the right capability and culture. That's the real fundamental issue. Remember that as a leader, remember I said execution is the right people, the right things, the right way. So as a CEO, that's the simple rule. You have to first say, do I have the right people in this company? If I don't have the right people, they can't do the right things, the right way, it's never going to happen. So when, as a CEO, you move into any situation, you always start with people capability first, and results will follow. You get the right leaders, all the other things will disappear. Silo working, processes not there, innovation pipeline, execution not being good. These are all symptomatic of poor, weak, uncoordinated leadership. Right? Capability. Get the right capability, you need to first have the right vision. You need to have clarity on where are we going. You can't just solve capability and start hiring people without knowing where you're going. So you first need to have, even before capability, is to have clarity of your mission. Then you need to have clarity of your values and the culture that you wish to build. Then you can start hiring the right capability. See what I mean? You need to know the destination. You need to know what culture you want to create. Then you can hire the right leaders, right? Because you're going to hire leaders who are going to help you reach that destination and will demonstrate the kind of values that you think are important. So the key takeaway here is, before you do anything, step back, clarify the mission, clarify the culture, and then build your capability. That is what you need to do as a CEO, right? So many of you got capability and culture. What we did not get was vision and culture. Because capability, like I said, people you hire for attitude and you train for skill. You can't change attitude. To hire for the right attitude, you need to know what kind of attitude you want. What is the culture that you want to build, right? So therefore, vision, mission, culture, and then capability. So we talked about this. So define purpose, define strategy, define culture, and then build your capability, starting with the executive team, like many of you said. But you can't start changing the executive team without knowing what you're trying to solve for, what the strategy is, and what is the culture that you wish to build. You don't want to start shooting from the hip. Many of you have said this. Once you have the vision, the strategy, and the culture, have an honest chat with the executive team and say, hey, this is where we're going. These are the culture that we need. I'm going to assess each one of you against this. Either you're on the bus or you have to get out of the bus. That's it. So some people, you want to give them an opportunity. Some people will, like you said, they might say, okay, fine, I agree with this. I'm inspired by it. I'm going to be with you 1,000%. Great, give them the opportunity because you have the benefit of continuity. But the harder and more difficult decision for a CEO tends to be actually changing people, and that must be done. You have to have an executive team that stands behind you. Otherwise, you're doomed from day one. So either you're with me or you're not with me. So you have to make that tough choice. That's what I mean. Executive team, maybe some will stay, maybe some will go. And the executive team that I showed you right in the beginning is a new executive team that has been put in place with maybe 2 or 3 people who are continuing from the past, who've demonstrated that they're aligned with the future, but everybody else is a new face or a new pair of hands, bringing new energy, new excitement, new can-do attitude, new excitement about the future of the company. All right? So let's delve into this. What does this mean? Purpose, strategy, culture, and then strengthening the capability. So this is the One Paradise purpose, that we want to make one paradise for a healthier and responsible world. So strategy, if you remember, what were the 4 things that we talked about that needed to be addressed? Simplify. What else? Capability and? Exactly right. So you had those hypotheses. Now your strategy, lo and behold, is addressing those 4. Simplify the business, strengthen the model, build capabilities, and accelerate growth. Simple strategy. Again, on one page, easy to understand. Anybody can really relate to it. So that's the strategy. So you define the vision, you define the strategy, and then you have the culture. So you basically define what are the cultural tenets. Here, I'll give you a little different definition. The culture for me is a special feeling that you create through common language. Language is very important. It's a special feeling that you create. And I don't really believe in culture of, very nice sounding big words, integrity and honesty and hard work. I believe that great culture is an expression of behaviors. Behaviors, like what should I do? How can I observe this behavior? It's not just a very high level articulation of values that then end up just being posters on a wall. So here are some of the cultures as examples, that you have uncovered from listening to the team, that we want to actually love and grow our teams. We want to really take care of our people. So it's a very behavioral thing. Love and grow our people, train them, give them career opportunities, give them good compensation benefit, make sure that we retain them. They're very behavioral. Treat each customer as if that customer is the only one. In every sort of cafe that you're staying, the mindset is you are the only customer that I have. I'm going to serve you to the very best of my ability. Again, it's behavioral. Be a force multiplier for good, meaning that we will also do things for our community and for our planet. Do more with less. So actually always have big ambition, but always conserve your resources. Again, it's a very behavioral. And then finally, stay curious and have the courage to out-execute competition. So just examples of culture. So now you've defined the culture. You've defined your vision, you defined your strategy, and now you can actually strengthen the executive team. So you're the CEO, and then you've hired these bunch of people. There are, 2, 3 of them that are from the past, and the others are actually new leaders who've come on board that you're adding to your team to make the team very, very strong. And also strengthening your capability gaps on off-premise, digital sourcing, food safety, loyalty, and innovation. Now, I can see many of you are feeling a bit exhausted. Are you exhausted? So Ted is from WeWork, Eamon Cruz is from Kraft Heinz, David Rogers from McDonald's, all kind of superstars. So what is the risk with superstars? Are superstars always great, make great team members? Each one thinks, right? So now your job as a CEO is, that's an alarm for a break. So your job as a CEO is that now you've hired these fantastic group of leaders. Each one is very, very strong and very competent. And now you have to stitch them together as a highly effective executive team. How will you do that? How do you, as an executive team coach, make individuals who are superstars convert them into a superstar team? How do you do that? Yeah.
For a week, they will all work as a general manager for a store.
Let me now reveal to you what I believe is the way to make highly effective teams. Right? That is probably one of the most important jobs of a CEO. Right people doing the right things. That right way is collaboration. The right way is complying with the culture. So you as a CEO, you have to ensure that people are working as one team. It's your job, right? So you need to have a certain model in your head. How do I do that? It's not that easy. Have individual superstars who come together and work as one team. A very good book to read on teamwork is Patrick Lencioni, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I don't know if you've read it. It's about 75 pages. You can finish it in like half an hour. It's a fantastic book. And what it says is that highly effective teams first need to have trust. And how do you build trust? By being vulnerable. And that's a whole different topic. But some of you talked about that. Not living in a house together, but social time together so it's a combination of some of those things. You need to first have trust. Then when you have trust, you need to have conflict. You actually encourage people, disagree. Speak your mind. Don't be polite. Conflict, right? Because conflict actually creates commitment. If you have a chance to articulate what you believe in, then you're committed. Right? Because even if, see, you're working in a team and you don't get a chance to be heard, you don't get a chance to give your point of view, you'll never feel committed. But if you get a chance to be heard, even if your idea is not taken, you will feel committed. Because you say, okay, my value, they give value to what I think, right? So you have trust, then you have conflict, then you have commitment, and then you want clarity. That after every meeting, you clearly decide, okay, what have we decided, team? Who will do what and by when? And then finally, the fifth level is alignment, which is some of you were saying to be aligned on the strategy and the culture and the mission and all that. So it's a pretty simple, useful way of thinking about it. However, I want to share with you something more than the obvious, more than what Patrick Lencioni does, is my own learnings on how to create effective teams. Effective teams have to have rules of engagement. Where this team, let's say you're in my executive team, and we say, okay, team, each one of you are fantastic individually. We want to be fantastic together. How do you think we should work so that we are fantastic together? What are some of the rules of engagement on how we conduct meetings, how we make decisions, how do we solve problems, how do we listen to each other, how do we speak about each other behind their backs? What is it that you have learned that is important to you for highly effective teams? Let's agree on a roadmap and rules of engagement, right? Every time I've gone into a leadership position, I do this with my teams, and it's a fantastic, simple thing to do. And then once you define the rules, then you as a CEO hold everybody accountable to those rules. When somebody complies, you recognize them. If they don't, rap on the knuckles. And you hold them to account. And they hold each other to account, which again is a different thing that we can tackle some other time. But let me share with you what I mean by that. So when I work, I normally have these rules. And it is very simple. It is A, B, C, D, E. A is my executive team is the A team, which means we as a team are the number one most important team, not your functional team. You are loyal to your peers, not to your function. That's a very important mindset. This is your team, number one team. And then your functional team is second. B, each one of you is a business leader first and a functional leader second. When you walk into a room, your hat should say, Paradise Salads and Bowls. I am an owner of this business. I'm not the operations person or the marketing person. You own the business. You're a business leader first, right? C, every time there's a conflict that you don't like what she said or you don't like what he said, you have to resolve that conflict in 24 hours directly with the person or let it go. Don't hold on to grudges, because grudges become like big apes on your back if they're unresolved, and they always start interfering with your relationship. So if you don't like something about somebody, take them into a private room, yell, scream, shout, get it out of your system, and then walk out. Resolve it directly, not to tell him, this guy, not triangulate. Don't come to me and complain about other people. I will not allow it. If somebody comes to me as a supervisor, I'll say, have you spoken to that person directly? If not, get lost. Right? Speak and resolve your conflict directly. D, no decisions without disagreements. If you're sitting as an executive team and everybody's saying yes, 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 that is bad news. Somebody has to disagree and tell me why this is a bad idea. And E is eliminate hands from the grave. Hands from the grave is, I told you so, When we were discussing this problem, I was the only guy, if you remember, in the room who told you it wouldn't work. You know some people like that? That is the worst thing that you can do in a team, is hands from the grave. We don't want that. Once we decide, it's one team, it's one decision, we all own it. If it doesn't work, we own it, and we will fix it. We are not going to be finger pointing and blaming other people. So these are mine that I have picked up every time I work with companies and teams. You might pick up your own, but the important thing is you sit and have the discussion with your team. What does it mean to be a highly effective team? And what are the rules by which we want to play? Yeah? I found that to be incredibly powerful. So, highly effective teams. All right. So now we are hit by the COVID bomb. So now you're kind of just feeling confident. So you're a CEO. People know who you are. You have clarified the mission, the purpose, the strategy, the culture. You've started shifting the executive team around. You've hired a bunch of executive team. You're starting to build the executive team as one effective team. You're feeling good, but business is still very bad. And suddenly you're hit by COVID and your business has disappeared. 50% of your sales are gone like that overnight. Boom. And suddenly you're sitting, instead of together in one team, you're sitting in your house, not. And suddenly the team is now disaggregated and you're seeing your sales are falling even faster. So this is what you see. Within 2 weeks, more than 50% of sales are gone. Everyone is sitting in their respective homes. There's no playbook. Nobody knows what to do. You're also panicking, but you're reminding yourself, damn it, I'm the CEO. I can't panic, right? We are worried about the safety and survival of our business. And we are performing a lot worse than all the other companies because of the kind of business we are. We're a salads and bowls company. And most of our business was on-premise, not off-premise. Don't have a good delivery business, et cetera, et cetera. So because we're short on time, I'm going to accelerate to what I think is an important lesson for crisis. And when things are very tough, what should you do? Because your first job, most important job, is to create hope. Leaders have to be peddlers in hope. They articulate reality, but they have to provide hope. We all are drawn to leaders who provide hope, who are optimistic, and can redefine what success looks like, and are calm and collected and know what they're doing. Right? Would you agree? Yes. So to do that, the first thing that you need to do in a crisis is to first declare, what is the mindset that we will embrace? What is truly important that we will solve? And how will we make decisions as we solve those things? That's what a leader needs to do, because you can't make all micro decisions. You need to provide that clarity to the organization so all the leaders have clarity on, okay, this is the mindset, these are the two important goals, and this is how we will make decisions, because then they can move at rapid speed, right? And you also create hope by telling everybody that this problem is a great opportunity for us to build trust with all our stakeholders by treating them the way they should be treated. Employees, customers, or our shareholders, all are important, with respect and transparency and candor. But we are thinking of trust. Trust is actually more than survival. Trust is doing the right thing more than survival. That is inspiring, right? As human beings, we find that inspiring. Okay, we're going to build trust. Everything is not lost. We can do service. We can serve others and we can build trust. So let me share with you what I mean by that. So when we had the crisis, we said the mindset is one of being a windmill. That we will stand tall in the fury of this uncertainty and we will harness the headwinds and convert them into a force for good. We will look upon this problem as an opportunity to become better and stronger. We will not be diving into the nearest bunker and wait for the storm to pass. That is not our mindset. Our mindset is playing on the front foot and being aggressive and confident. So that clarifies to everybody. Okay, all right, we're going to play on the front foot, right? We're not going to actually run to the hills and jump into a bunker. Second is we're saying the two most important goals, like you said. One is safety of our people, customers and employees is paramount, most important, nothing more important than their lives. But secondly, also to protect and preserve our business. So we cannot not lay off people. How can you do that? If your business is half and your resources are 2 times, how can you not cut resources or cut salaries? Or you have to. You owe that to the shareholder. So we will protect and preserve the business, and that means we will make hard decisions. But as we do that, our decision filters are the following. One is, whatever decision we take, we shall do with the utmost empathy, humanity, compassion, and respect for people impacted. And we will not burn the furniture because this too shall pass. This is not going to last forever. It seems as if it's going to last forever. So let's not burn the furniture. Let's just make sure that we do the right things for the long term, right? And not be short-term orientated. You see how much clarity this provides? You're not tackling individual micro problems. You're giving the big picture filters for decision making in terms of mindset, goals, and decision filters. And I'll give you some quick examples of how some of the things that we did. So increased revenue, many of you talked about it. Innovation, off-premise. I'll give you an interesting example. And many of you are talking about that, off-premise. Can we do curbside pickup where people actually come to the store from outside and they're sitting in the car and you take the food to them? So we launched that in about 500 stores within a week. Second was very fascinating that we were actually running out of business and we had too many ingredients in the cafes. So we converted. One day I was sitting with my wife. I was sitting with my wife and trying to order grocery, and the grocery said it'll be home delivered after 5 weeks. I don't know how it was in India, but it was crazy. So my wife said to me, why can't you actually become a grocery store? I said, wow. I said, can I claim that idea as my own? So we actually launched a grocery business in 7 days, in 10 days. So people were coming to Paradise and buying milk and buying eggs and buying fruit because there was a need. So there was a lot of innovation on the revenue side. Reducing costs, of course, you reduce overheads, improve margins, simplify operations, and building trust. So we had to furlough about 15,000 people. Half of the workforce had to be furloughed. Right, in the US, you can furlough them, which means you don't fire them, but you furlough them, you stop paying their salaries. And they get some state benefit. Very hard thing to do. And as a CEO, you feel very, like all of you were struggling, right? Will I fire these people, these 30,000 people? Like it's not a good thing to do, but you have to do it. So what we did was we went and reached out to CVS and Walmart who were hiring people and said, would you hire our furloughed people and then give them back to us? They said, we don't know about giving them back to you, but we can certainly hire them. So that's an example of making tough choices, but doing it with compassion, empathy, and respect. Imagine the trust that you build with your employees, where you go above and beyond and do more. So I would say to you as future leaders, you should never shirk from doing what's tough, but always pause and say, how can I do it with compassion and with respect for human beings? And treat them the way I would want to be treated. That's what differentiates a phenomenal leader from just somebody who's average. And then we did a bunch of other things which we don't have the time to go into. And then of course there's the fourth and the fifth and all that, so we don't have time. So I'll probably stop here. So I want to just close by sharing with you that when times are tough, I have always learned that when things are really tough and I'm feeling lost and I don't know what to do, I always go back to my core values. Who am I? Like when I'm too confused, I don't know where to start, I don't know what to do. COVID comes and you're feeling uncertain as a leader. How do I lead? What do I do? I go back to who I am and what my values are. And I think I've shared with many of you my biggest inspiration is my daughter who passed away in 2015, that's Aisha. And she has inspired many of my values. And I go back to this. Every time I'm feeling lost, I say, okay, I'm going to focus, I'm going to take ownership and I'm going to focus on what I have control over. And I keep reminding myself, okay, there's so much out here that I can't control, but what can I do? I can show up as a good leader, empathetic, compassionate, respectful. I can lead my teams the way I would want to be led. So I can actually do that. I want to always lead with humanity and compassion and lead with my heart. Right? I want to do tough things if I have to, but I will always lead with compassion because that's who I am. You know? Because like I said, this is a human experience in the pursuit of enterprise value. We can never undermine and forget the importance of humanity and leaders just being compassionate, right? Serving the community, in tough times looking for opportunities, that our business is not just a business in isolation. Our business exists to serve the community in which we operate. So how can you serve the community? So we did a lot of work, during the pandemic. So one example is school children. School children were facing, especially from underprivileged backgrounds, that rely on school meals. In the US, school meals, they get free school meals. And these are inner city children. Schools were all shut. These kids had no food. No food. So what do? We had no business. You said, okay, we have no business. They have no food. That's an opportunity. So we went and we said, okay, can we create school meals because our shops are open and feed children? And we did that. So there is always a business opportunity as you serve communities and do the right thing. And finally, this aspect of looking for optimism. Leaders have to be optimistic, always looking at how can this be a good thing? How can this challenge be a good thing for me? How can I actually step up and be stronger and better because of all the difficulties that I face? How can I be resilient and tenacious in the face of glorious uncertainties and be the best version of who I can be? So those are the values. So this is what I wanted to share with you finally is, as a leader, you can only lead an enterprise if you have clarity in your own mind as to who you are and what you stand for. And whenever times are tough, it's best to then lean back into that for inspiration, and that will always give you clarity in terms of what needs to be done. With that, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.